The betrayal is real, guys. I am not kidding. Hi guys, and welcome to episode 93 of the Crochet Cakes podcast, a podcast all about crochet and whatever crafty rabbit hole I happen to have fallen down during the past 2 weeks. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being here. Thank you to any new subscribers and to returning subscribers, returning viewers. Just a huge big hug and crafty welcome to you. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about the one where I was betrayed. And before we dive into that super interesting topic, I first have a couple of announcements. So number one would be we are still running the hashtag oddments cardi cal on Instagram, or just the oddments cardi cal on YouTube if you want to see what it's all about. And this is a cal that I am co-hosting with Caroline of Mind and Muse Crafts, and it's made possible by Rosina of Scenes and Rogers' adaptation or interpretation of the J.W. Anderson cardigan, which is in short the Harry Styles cardigan, which I know has been making a lot of rounds. And if you want to know what the people that are participating in the cal are doing, then please check out the hashtag oddments cardi cal on Instagram. It's a lot of fun just to see what everybody's been up to. Personally, I think I'm on block 3 because I'm dividing them into blocks instead of block rows. I don't know. I honestly do not know how to explain it, but I'm probably going to get together soon with Mind and Muse Crafts to do another in-progress video or Zoom chat because she's been really busy. She's a math professor at the university, so this is like crunch time right before finals. But it's also crunch time if you happen to be a last-minute crafter like me. Hooray for that. So please join us over there. It's really fun. You don't only have to make a cardigan if you don't not like the style. You can use the same intarsia techniques or scrappy techniques to make a cushion, make a hat. Please head on over to the Mind and Muse Crafts YouTube channel, which I will link here, so that you can go watch the 2 special edition videos that are already out about the oddments cardi cal. And the other thing that I want to say right before we begin is a huge thank you to anybody who's commented, followed me on Instagram, given my reels some love. This week on Fridays we were crochet, which is a hashtag that I started on Instagram and you can follow and participate in. Please do so. So this week I did a reel about what the weather in Florida is like when you're just, waiting for that cool wind to hit, and it never really does. And then you have one day of cold weather and then the rest is just hot. So I did a reel on that. If you haven't seen it and would like to see it, then please head on over to my Instagram profile. You will find it there. It's the last post I did. So thank you for that. And also a huge shout out, big virtual hug to Ali of Starry Eyes Ali and of the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast here on YouTube. You will find it linked down below as well. She very kindly gave me a shout out in her podcast, and her words were just so beautiful and eloquent, and I honestly got a bit teary-eyed when she started mentioning it, because even though we get into the crafty business of sharing, just for the art of sharing the love of what we do and having it reach more people, reading comments, having people tell you how much they love it, hearing people say it, watch how they're saying it, I cannot even describe that feeling. And so I just want to thank Ali so much for her kind words. I know I'm not very eloquent. I've never been the most eloquent person when it comes to things that really mean a lot to me or expressing what I am feeling. Sometimes I think I have the emotional range of a teaspoon when it comes to expressing my emotions. I do feel a whole lot. I'm just not that great at expressing it. And it's honestly not something that's started now. It's ever since I was 5 years old, people would give me a compliment and I would hide under tables. So from the Clarissa that still wants to hide under tables when people are very nice to her, thank you from the bottom of my crafty heart. And a big hug to you, Ali, and thank you for hosting the Strictly Sock Along, even though I never managed to participate because I always talk myself out of it. But every time I'm working on a sock, I'm watching a podcast from you and you're talking about Strictly, so I could cheat if I wanted to. So yes, thank you to Ali and thank you to everybody that is commenting, liking, subscribing, and most of all, engaging with the content I produce, because that is honestly the best part, reading comments. I love it. So thank you. And because I honestly do not have any other words except those 2 words to express myself, I think I'm going to stop embarrassing myself with this very non-eloquent way of thanking people and just move on, toddle on to all the content that I have to share with you today, because it is a lot, and I do mean a lot. So the first thing I'm going to address is what I'm wearing. I think you can sort of see it. Maybe I put the tripod a bit too high, but I am wearing a crochet top, and this top is found in the book Learn to Crochet, Love to Crochet by Anna Wilkinson. I absolutely love this book. Every single pattern in it, I want to make it. And this one is smart enough, I bookmarked it beforehand. This is just called a cropped tee. And can we please talk about that sketch? It's gorgeous. I try to sketch like that. You don't want to know what it looks like. But this is essentially what it looks like if the person is standing up. So it is a very cropped tee, which I like and I don't like. I like because I love wearing really high waist jeans and skirts, but sometimes they're not the hardest to find. And when it comes to picking fabrics, I don't tend to pick a lot of neutral fabrics that would go with a lot of my crochet wear, which is something that I am trying to remedy. I tend to go for really bold prints that I love, but then don't really match the crochet bakes I have. So I have to get better at making, what's that called? A cohesive wardrobe? Yeah, I have to get better at making a cohesive wardrobe. And I think this piece was a good start with that, because it is a kind of tan camel brown marled crochet yarn, and it's more of a crochet tube. It's one of those chained yarns, and this is Rowan. It cost me £1 in a John Lewis, I hope that's the store, on a John Lewis sale, which was the first time I went to Scotland for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And I actually still have 2 balls left over. So I think I have 200 grams. I could make this one longer, or I could use it towards another project that's in this book that I really want to make as well. And I'm just flicking through. Here we are, because it's a pinafore. It's called the Striped Shift Dress, which, oh, I love it. And you guys know I love this type of dress because I designed one, and it's the bubble shift dress. I'll link it down below if you're interested as well, but it's, I really like it. And speaking about cohesive wardrobes, I was planning on making it in like a grayish color. So it'll go with a lot of things in my wardrobe. Just making it only one color, not striped as it's shown in the pattern, which may or may not be good for the stitch, because the stitch I believe is the Catherine wheel stitch. She doesn't say that though. So yeah, But this is a really good book if you're just getting into crochet. I really recommend it because it's a great way to learn through making patterns, which is how I learn, and it's fun constructions. And this also taught me that this type of collar that this striped tee has is my favorite collar, and I try to incorporate it in as many crochet designs as I can. So we've talked about that, and I have actually mentioned that this was stash yarn. I made this when I got married, the year I got married. When did I get married? 2019. Sure, I made this in 2019 and I have bought the yarn in 2017. So it was a long time in my stash. And speaking of stash and how we use it, I've written several blog posts about stashes and how sometimes we tend to have a negative attitude towards the stash that we have. And you guys saw a brief glimpse of my stash when we started this video. It's been very carefully curated, I like to think so anyway, and organized. So we have indie dyed yarns on the left, and then all on the top shelf we have wools and sock yarns, and then on the bottom shelf we have all cotton or cotton blend yarns, and on the shelf below that it's mostly acrylics and some cotton blends and some yarny scraps. So that's the way my stash looks, right? And also at the beginning of the year I addressed that I had kind of a hope basket organized with a lot of stashed yarn and projects that I wanted to get through. I've been pretty good about that. I think I'm missing 3 shawls and 1 pair of fingerless mitts that I would like to make. Don't think I will have time to make it before we reach January 2021 because guys, it's almost Thanksgiving here in the United States, which is crazy to think about. Let's not think about it. I don't want to count how many days there are until Christmas because I'm going to drive myself more crazy than I already am. But the reason I am addressing stash again is because I've been betrayed, guys. I have been betrayed by my stash. Have you ever been betrayed by your stash? Have you ever walked up to your stash and been like, I need this yarn to make this project because it will look fantastic? And you swear you have exactly what you need because it's a pretty sizable stash and you've been collecting it for 4+ years. But then you walk up there and you're staring intently at your stash and it's mocking you because it doesn't have what you need to make a project. That happened. And I will tell you why it happened. So, as you may or may not know, I design free patterns and I post them over in the crochetcakes website. They're available for free. If you want to donate, you can do so by purchasing a PDF copy of the pattern or also by going to my Ko-fi website and buying a cup of coffee, which is not coffee, it's tea. I am a tea drinker, but I cannot change that until I reach a certain level in Ko-fi, so I can say tea. But anyway, the point is that I usually post my patterns there because the point, of course, is becoming a successful blogger, that mysterious thing that you and I have read so much about. But anyway, so when I design for myself to post on my website, I tend to focus more on describing the yarn that I'm using so that if you need a substitution, you can do so more easily because the yarn is an S-twist yarn. It's 400 yards, fingering weight, high twist. So all of that kind of just tells you that if you're going to substitute, you need something that will compare to this yarn that I'm describing. So I don't typically say, oh, I'm using Stitchcraft and Wizardry yarn. And if I do, I will definitely describe the yarn and the yarn blend it is, so that if you don't have Stitchcraft and Wizardry yarn in your stash, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, link will be down below because you need to check it out. Anyway, so if you do not have this yarn in your stash, you can easily find something in your stash that will benefit this project or that will go with this project. But when you're designing for magazines, I feel that you need to just be able to say, this was Knit Picks Felici, blah, 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 okay? Because I think they kind of expect that. And I decided to submit a design idea to a magazine. And I wanted to see, yeah, okay, I'm gonna submit this, I'm doing this. Rosina of Zines and Rogers, she often texts me and says like, why are you not submitting your designs to magazines? They're amazing and they're really beautiful. So I took the plunge and I dove right in, but as I was looking through my stash, I had no yarn to make up a swatch with that I thought would benefit the design I had in mind and would translate the idea that I wanted to translate it. I still had some comfy fingering left over, so I did the swatch in that. But then I texted Rosina all nervous. I'm like, is this gonna work? She said, honestly, this is just to give them an idea of what your design could look like. They might even ask you to change the yarn because these magazines will often give you yarn sponsorships. And in the case of international designers, which would be me because I submitted to a UK based magazine, you would get compensation to order your yarn. So yes, there's that. And also, so that's the one I'm designing for, and I was contacted, I'm not sure, I should have asked the person, but basically I'm also going to be designing for another magazine and it's going to be in the works, but that one's going to be further along the line. And I also didn't have exactly what I wanted for the design because it's going to be a fall design, so I wanted to design something cozy, and I didn't have that. Because yes, while I do have a lot of fingering weight merino nylon, I do not find merino cozy. Merino to me is not warm enough. When I make knit socks out of merino, my feet are still cold. If I do crochet socks out of merino, they're a little bit warmer, but that's because the crochet fabric is thicker. But yes, so those are my feelings on stash. Now, what do I plan on doing about this stash betrayal? What I plan on doing is honestly getting through most of the stash that I can by making things for myself, things to give away, and designing for the blog while being as descriptive about the yarn that I've chosen as possible. And then only purchasing yarns that I know I'm going to use for designs. My stash will be kept for yarns for personal use, and then whatever I'm gonna do for designs, I'm just gonna have to purchase it. But hopefully I will not be indiscriminately adding to my stash. I want to be very, very conscious, a lot more conscious than I've been about adding to this stash. So that is my stash story, and it also applies to my fabric stash, okay? My fabric stash is full of odds and ends that drive me a little crazy. So I also have to remedy that. But continuing with the stash conundrum, I know you guys, like me, probably have a lot of single hanks of fingering weight sock yarn. Well, I do too, you know, in case I didn't talk about that enough. So what I'm doing is trying to come up with a fade sweater idea, and this is based on a sweater that I own. I've owned for 5, 6, 7 years, I don't know, since I moved to Syracuse, New York in 2014. That's how long I've had this sweater, and it's one of my favorites. And I posted about this on Instagram, and I asked your idea of how I should organize my fade. But basically, these are the colors that I think I'm going to be using. Oh, I've caked the other ones up. So these are the colors that I'm going to be using. It's a lot of blues, aquas, turquoisey, and greens. And I want to do a fade, like I said, with this. And they are not all from the same dyer. They are not all the same makeup. this green chartreusey gorgeousness that also has aquas and kind of like, yeah, aqua blue and turquoisey blue. This one is 100% superwash merino, and it's supposed to be a sport weight, but since it is a true sport weight, it's thin, so it could be considered a thick fingering weight, which goes well with all the other fingering weights I have on stash. So I'm going to start this sweater bottom up, and I'm going to be fading from that one. Possibly this will be the fade that I go with. I think I like the idea of starting with really bright colors at the bottom and then ending with the really dark, moody green blue at the top. So this is my fade idea. I've sort of started it. Like, I have all the measurements, I think, somewhere. Did I even start this? Oh my god. Oh, what? Never mind, do not pay attention to my notes. Somewhere along the way here, I actually have started the thing for it. I'll just have to find it because this is my design notebook stuff thing. And right now all I have is this little strip. That's all I have. From bottom up. So it will have a reverse raglan construction, which if you've made my last newest top, you will be familiar with. And this time I think I will film the reverse raglan construction part, because I know if you have never worked with it before, it can be a little confusing. So that is living in one of my favorite bags that I've made. It's very dodgy. Because this was an experiment, but it's green and it's got pandas and it's green. All the best things are. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. So speaking of, that's kind of stashing down, I guess. And I think that's what I'm gonna try to do a lot with 2021. We'll see. I think as crafters, we are eternally trying to diminish our stash, and it's a never-ending story. By the way, I hated those movies when I was a kid. But now that I've talked about my yarny stash for a little bit, I'm gonna do a bloop, 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 because I do have two finished objects that I completely forgot about, and they are both sewing. So Christmas season is almost upon us, and I wanted my home to feature a lot of handmade things this Christmas. So I thought, I have Christmas stash. I have some Christmas fabrics, and I want to work from those, obviously. So I made a table runner, and I'll include the link to the tutorial that I used down below. It's super easy. It was supposed to be an hour project if you had followed instructions, which of course I messed up, so I had to rip it back. But it is a super easy construction, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seams in total. No interfacing, no stabilizer, just 2 yards of fabric, one for your front, one for your back fabric, like that. It's all 2 pieces of fabric that I think was just so masterfully sewn together. This one is just 100% cotton fabric that I had in my stash. It's got Christmas trees and poinsettias, or pascuas as we call them in Puerto Rico. And it's very traditional Christmassy greens and reds, and I guess it's supposed to be gold, but it's more like yellow. And the inside is a really Christmas red with some gold swirls. And they, like I said, they were both in my stash. Now, I made this. I love it. I really, really do. But I'm going to be giving it away because I realized that last year when we bought our Christmas decorations, we went for a woodland lodge theme. So this is a bit too traditional Christmas for the woodland lodge theme. Of course, that doesn't mean anything. That just means I need tartan, guys, or plaid. Okay, which one refers to the fabric? I think it's tartan fabric. Yes. So I just I got some tartan fabric from Joann's, hopefully. And I hopefully also got some really cute red trucks carrying Christmas trees, because they keep canceling my orders because they run out of the fabrics that I'm ordering. Yes. So that is finished object number 1, which will also be a gift that I'll be sending to my grandma, because like me, she is a very traditional Christmas person. So I'll be sending this her way, and I'll be making another one for me, very traditional, because what I decided is that different corners of my house will have different Christmas scenes. So where the tree is, that's all woodland lodge. So kind of the living room will be all woodsy and tartany. And then the kitchen area, I do have a Christmas tree, and it's all about cupcakes, bright colors, food. And then for the table, I'll probably do traditional Christmas with hollies and just, yeah. I want to work from stash. I want to finish it, guys. So that is sewing finished object number 1. Sewing finished object number 2 also is a bit of a skip because it has some stashy acquisitions. But it is a drawstring, just a simple drawstring pouch that was super dodgy because I measured and measured and measured and measured, and guess what? It wasn't right. It really wasn't. So inside here is a Christmas present that my husband got me really early, and it is a Amish style Chi-Agu Swift. And it's brilliant. I posted a video, a little story on Instagram of my husband helping me wind up some yarn, and he was very enamored with this Swift, just like I am. It is a completely wooden Swift. I will insert I don't have a video, but essentially you have these two long pieces. You put them crosswise like this, and you put a dowel in the middle, and then you've got dowels that go depending on how big your hank is. And that's it. It's super affordable. It was about $52 on Amazon with Prime. That's US dollars. And yeah, I'm so happy with it. So inside this little drawstring bag, we've got a smaller drawstring bag with the dowels and all the parts for the Swift, which is just, I love it. I love it. And I now want to cake up all my yarn because it makes it so easy. Of course, this only works if your yarn is in a hank, and I do have a lot of yarns that are in skeins now, more so than hanks. So I'll still get plenty of uses out of it though. So that is my 2 sewing finished objects, and those are actually the only finished objects that I have. I do have lots, and I do mean lots, of work in progress. So I think I will only share a couple with you because we are running a bit on time, I think. So inside this lovely bag with balls of yarn and hanks of yarn and little cats, this is a Handmade by Yael bag, which if you've never seen her bags, you're missing out. You're missing out. But inside I have my 3rd version of the summer fan top. I've finished the front half of it, I think. So let me just take out my yarn. Yeah, this is the front half of it, and I'm pretty sure I made it a bit too short, so I'll probably add to it. I just wanted to make sure that I had enough yarn because I am working from stash, and this is Drops Saffron in our color 31, which is a chartreusey limey green color. It's not I think it's a bit too matte to be chartreuse, but it is a lovely shade of green. And Drops Saffron is 100% cotton, and it recommends a 3mm hook. So this is fingering weight yarn, which love. So the summer fan top is a top that I've designed before, and it uses a open fan stitch on the yoke. And the first time I designed it, I was trying to imitate a blouse that I had a long time ago that had lace insert, and you tied it in the back, which is very kind of Edwardian Gibson girl style with the lace inserts and all that. So this time I am trying to go with a more Edwardian vibe by adding some nice cap sleeves and also leaving a gap in the back so that you can button the shirt or tie it. And I still haven't worked out if for the back I'm going to do the lace inserts as well for the back, or if I will simply just work in double crochets. So this is the front, and you would think I would have been able to use the same summer fan top pattern, but I actually had to make a couple of adjustments. But can you see this stitch? I love this open fan stitch. So this is the front panel, and I believe this took 1.5 balls, and these are 50-gram balls, and I have this little smidge. I think this is like 15 grams left, so I've definitely made it a bit too cropped. But for the back panel, this is where I am at, so I still have plenty of time to decide if I want to do the open fan stitch at the top, at the back as well, or if I want to go for a different stitch at the back. I think originally I had said, oh, let's go for a different stitch, and then I was thinking, and I went like, oh, but I really like that open fan stitch, and the idea is for it to be very lacy, so we will see. So that's work in progress 1, 2, 3. I do have to say, I absolutely love Drops saffron yarn. You get such gorgeous stitch definition with it. I'll put it back up again so you can see. And it's such a beautiful yarn, honestly. It doesn't feel too tough. And I am using a 3.5mm hook, and I actually endeavored to use my Furls crochet hook this time. I just need to get used to the weight of it. The weight is distributed differently, and I need to get used to that. But I'm being very careful so I don't drop it on the floor or anything like that. And I do have several works in progress, like I said, but another one that I'm working on is a Christmas gift, and I guess it's not really a Christmas gift. It's for my neighbor. I believe I've shared in a previous podcast she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and it has spread, so she is going to start undergoing chemo treatment, and it's going to be very bad. Like during Christmas she won't really be doing that hot, and I am going to make her some socks so she can keep her feet warm during her hospital treatments and probably at home. So I'm crocheting her a pair of socks because I think they'll be very, very cozy. And I'm not using my own pattern, actually. I am using a pattern from the Step Into Crochet book, which I forgot to bring along with me. But the funny thing is that I chose this pattern because I was like, oh, it looks so pretty. And it actually is very similar to my Endor Moon crochet sock pattern. So the main difference would be that this uses a half double crochet instead of a squished single crochet, and that it has extended single crochet in the back, which is one of my favorite stitches. Honestly, it is. So the faded project I started here is with squished single crochet. Extended single crochet. The summer fan top uses a combination of extended single crochet and single crochet. And now these socks also use extended single crochet in the back. And I think they are working up very beautifully. I did not do my normal toe, which is a sort of mushroomy rounded toe. I went with the toe that's wedge toe that's stated in the pattern, and I don't like it. I'm not a fan of wedge toes in crochet. And I am using Premier Serenity sock in the color Caldwell, Dark Water, Agua Oscura. And this is a 50% merino wool, 20% 25% bamboo, 25% nylon yarn. So I think it'll be really nice for crochet socks, and honestly it is working up beautifully for crochet socks, and I'm getting sort of a micro striping, which I think is gorgeous. I'm using a 3mm hook for this because I usually tend to do 3mm hooks for my socks anyway, unless the yarn is very plump, and then I go to a 3.25. And what else can I tell you about this? Oh, my neighbor has very high arches, so I am gonna have to do a longer heel flap than usual just so it's more comfortable. But that is my little, this one doesn't actually have a project bag. I'm just throwing it in with my basket for the Oddments cardi cowl. I have a basket and I love having a big project in a basket. You can see all your yarns, you can see your project, you can keep your little notions pouch with all the goodies that you need there, and it's just so fun to carry it around and place it next to you. So what else have I been up to? I, of course, have been working on some gifts. I have crocheted, two pairs of knit socks on the go, and one of them you've already seen is the Prairie Socks, and the other is the Lightning Bolt socks by Sandra of Cherry Heart. I'm going to pause here and get them to show them to you quickly, and then we can talk about just a general rambly section of what else I've been doing with my crafty life. Right, so inside my Betsy Makes Christmas bag, which is gorgeous. I don't know if she still makes bags anymore, but her bags are so pretty. I've got two pairs of socks. One is the Prairie Socks, and this is the second one. I am about 2 inches away from starting my toe, so this might as well be on its way the 1st of December, which is good. And I'm making these magic loop, just like the pattern calls for, but I'm making a tube because I didn't want to try heels on magic loop, because magic loop confuses me. Okay, so now that I've shared my story of woe on magic loop, and you guys know those socks have their own tale of woe, because since I was knitting a tube, I forgot that at some point the back of the sock just becomes knit stitches, and this is the Prairie Sock pattern all the way around. Mom will forgive me, and I tried them on and they're still comfortable, so yay. But I also have inside here the Thunderbolt sock pattern, and this is a pattern that Sandra of Cherry Heart was so lovely and kind to give to me. I had written her a message asking if she where I could find the pattern, because it was about 1 or 2 years ago that she said she was going to design it, and she says, actually, you're the second person to ask me that, so I think I'm going to sit down and write the pattern, because I never got around to writing it. And I'm making it for my husband. I'm making him a pair of socks because he deserves them. He really does. And these are in a sock yarn that I had in my stash because I think it was on clearance in Joann, so it cost me $2.50 each 50-gram ball. So for $5 I got a ball, 100 grams to make a pair of socks. And this is Patton's Crochet socks. I had never used it before, and I'm sold. I think it's a super lovely and squishy and just gorgeous sock yarn. It really reminds me of Regia, but just softer, because I think Regia sock yarn is very tough, and I'm not a fan, honestly. But this one's nice and woolly, and it has a little bit of a halo. Oh yeah, it's showing up really, really true to color. It's called Blue Striped Rag, and it's got a marled gray, marled yellow gray, denim blue, navy blue, red, orange. It honestly looks like Christmas, like a vintage Christmas sock to me, so I thought it was super appropriate. and I'm making him a pair of shorties, but this is the gorgeous Thunderbolt design. So since it's a pair of shorties, I did my heel flap and gusset, and I'm pretty sure somewhere along the line, I always make mistakes in my gussets. My gussets are never true to gusset form, but they fit, so whatever. And now I'm just plodding along for the foot, which is the longest part. Men and their long feet. But I am actually making this 64 stitches on a pair of 2.25 circular needles, because I find that my gauge on circular needles is very loose, and a 64 stitch sock is too big for me. So it will fit my husband, because 2 years ago I made him a pair of 72 stitch sock on circular needles, and they were too big. And I put them in the dryer, and only one of them shrunk. The other one just stayed the same, so I thought that was kind of funny. So anyway, yeah, I just did a 2x2 rib as the pattern calls for, and I think this is a really great and lovely pattern because it's written for magic loop. So she does give you details on how to work it up with magic loop, but not only that, it's vanilla enough that you don't need to pay attention, but it's interesting enough that you don't get bored from knitting a vanilla sock. So once again, this is the Thunderbolt lightning strike. Oh my god. It's the lightning bolt pattern by Sandra of Cherry Heart. So it's, or maybe it's, is it called the lightning strike socks and then the pattern is lightning bolt? Whatever it is, the link will be in the description box below so that you can access it for yourself and not hear me blundering on trying to figure out the name of this gorgeous pattern that I 100% recommend because I love it. I think it's exactly like working this pattern. I get the feeling that I got by working the You Are Beautiful socks from Anna of Stitchcraft and Wizardry and the open socks from Emma Potter and Bloom. All those socks, you just kind of get into a rhythm and you fall in love with them. So that's how I feel about these, and I am very happy to be working on them. I don't know if they'll be done in time for Christmas, but luckily if you are Latino, Christmas is until the 6th of January, so plenty of time, hopefully, because he also asked me to crochet him a sweater. I haven't started that yet. I know in the last episode I said I was going to start it because I had gone to Joann's with him to pick out the yarn, but I have not started it. I got distracted by submitting designs, and one of them is in a commission. So I got distracted by that and by the fact that I need to be working my way through that. So inside this little Betsy Makes bag, I also have my little Create Notions pouch, which I love, and I've got my DPNs. I also have my 3mm hook, because this is, I call this one my sock bag, because here you will find my 9-inch circular needles, my DPNs, and my knitting type stitch markers. They'll always be in here. I don't know about you guys, but I organize my Notions pouches according to projects. So, I mean, typically they'll always have measuring tape, a yarn needle if I can find them, and a pair of snips or little scissors. But I decide stitch markers and things like that based on projects. So I have a Sock Notions pouch for Crochet Socks, which has the 3mm hook thing on it that I got, stitch marker that I got from Catherine of Crafty Treats ages ago. So what else have I been up to in this crafty lockdown life of mine? Voluntary quarantining, because we're not in quarantine in Florida. But I've been organizing. Because I got called out by my husband, and he said very nicely, he put it very, very nicely. He said, would you like to outfit one of the rooms to be an office of sorts for you so that you can have everything in one place. And so my crafty corner is in the back of the house, which I guess it's supposed to be like a small family room study type of thing. Well, I have my bookshelves, I have my crafty desk, but then I also took over the breakfast table. I have my laptop there and my gear for recording, for taking pictures when I'm doing photo tutorials. And then in the living room, I have the projects I like to work in at night. So those are there by the sofa in a little basket. And then in my husband's office, I have all my sewing stuff. And I also, I think I still have a box of yarn there, but they're like the leftover yarny stuff because most of my yarn is in my china cabinet or curio cabinet, whichever one of those you want to call it. So I've been trying to organize myself and put everything into my craft corner like it was originally meant to be, so that I'm not taking over the entire house with yarn. Do you guys have that problem that you just all of a sudden look around and all your house is taken over by yarn? Oh, and also I have a tutorial recording corner in our room because it has the best light. So yeah, it's this crochet business has literally taken over the house. But other than that, this week I really felt like reading a book, and I wanted something fun and lighthearted. I didn't want to read fan fiction. I didn't want to keep reading The Last Days of Magic, which it's not that it's not lighthearted, it's that it's got a bit of mystery in it, and sometimes you just need something to decompress, you know? And so I guess Kindle heard me, because when I opened up my Kindle app on my iPad, it's like, oh, recommendations. And I was like, oh, this sounds like something I can read to decompress. So I first read the excerpt, and I bought the book one of the series called Titled. This one. No, can't see it. That. Oh my god. I'm clicking everything except what I want. So, can I just go back to like the first page in the book? And there we go. Oh my goodness. So, that's it. Yeah, it looks like your typical kitschy romance novel, but it is not a bodice ripper. There's steam in it. It's steamy, but it's not a bodice ripper. So the premise is that World War III has occurred several centuries ago, and women decided, men, you're out of the running, you've ruined our planet, we women need to take control and make it a better place. Interesting. So I started reading it because of that. The protagonist, one of the protagonists in the book is an archaeologist, and of course, since World War III almost wiped out every single piece of history, she's very dedicated to her work, and she often makes references of classic books and movies that have survived and how they are interpreted during the time that she lives in, which is 29, it's very far away in the future. And it's really, I had a joke reading about her interpretation of Pride and Prejudice and Indiana Jones and Lara Croft Tomb Raider. So it was a fun, lighthearted, kitschy romance read that I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it when I read it. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would continue reading this series because it's what I needed at the time, but I think the premise of the plot would get old, because obviously the women took over the world and they have rules set in place where men cannot be in positions of power, but the men of the North they live in Canada and Alaska, I believe, they didn't want to submit to the rule of women, so they formed their own place, and it's kind of a culture clash as well, because obviously the men of the North have very, very few women, so they try to, they're super overprotective of them. No, don't lift a finger, I'm gonna do everything for you. And then the woman-ruled area of society, it's called the motherlands, and they're very men, hello, back the up, okay? So yeah, it was well written. I was a bit skeptical at first because it's in first person, and I don't like first person narratives because I feel they're very limited in the scope of what they're showing you. There are very few writers that can do a first person narrative and have you so involved in it. For example, The Hunger Games, I could never fully get into it because it's a first person narrative told from the mind of a 16-year-old. Listen, I don't want to be 16 again. So that is it for what I've been up to. I've also done baking, as you well know, but I think today's podcast has been particularly rambly, so I am going to cut it off here and just thank you all for watching. If you liked, please hit the like button. If you didn't like, then I can recommend tons of other podcasts that you can go watch. And if you stuck with me all the way through the end, then thank you, because I know there are plenty of other YouTube channels and podcasts that you could be watching, and that you chose mine makes me incredibly happy. And the last thing I want to say is happy crafting, guys, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye!